Hello, everyone, and welcome to today AMA session. So I'm Johan, Chief Marketing Officer at IXS, and I will be your host. We are very excited to be joined by a true innovator and in the spatial computing space. So Paul Martin, the founder and CEO of TagSpace. Today we will explore TagSpace journey, its technology, and its bold vision for spatial AI as well as how it connects with Web3, blockchain, and tokenization. We will cover everything from founding story, the tech stack, and real-world use case, all the way through to tokenomics and TagSpace upcoming equity token offering in partnership with IXS. So let's dive in. Thank you for being here. To kick things off, so please introduce yourself. And TagSpace also describe itself as a content infrastructure for spatial AI. So please, could you share the founding story behind TagSpace and what problem you set out to solve?
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks, Johan. And hey, good to have you here, everybody. This is our second AMA. So just for a quick introduction to me, because I might not have met some of you, I'm Paul Martin, the founder and CEO of TagSpace. Bit of background, I come from a long history in the AAA video games industry. I've been credited on at least 24 titles going right the way back to Need for Speed, FIFA Soccer, all the way back in '98. When I used to make video game engines for companies like Electronic Arts, Sony PlayStation, and Capcom. And my previous startup was a AAA video games company that was responsible for games such as Resident Evil and SOCOM. And so this is where a lot of the technology has come from that's ultimately ended up in TagSpace. So content infrastructure for spatial AI. Let me give you the alpha on this, right? So the sort of founding story here goes back to that previous startup, Slant6 Games. I was out trail running one morning on the Vancouver mountains with one of my senior engineers. It was super foggy, icy, really fun, and really dangerous. And we agreed what would be even more fun and even more dangerous would be if you could run through the trails but snatch Sonic the Hedgehog style rings from the trees as you went. And so that ultimately became the real sort of driving vision for TagSpace years later, because we both agreed at that time that not only would it be super cool to be able to enjoy those experiences, but what if anybody had the ability to make those experiences without needing to write any code? And so our core team are all also AAA video game veterans, and we're also Web3 experts. And so we've seen clearly for years this impending shift from 2D scrolling interfaces to spatial mixed reality experiences that play out in the real world. And here's the problem that we solve is while mixed reality is becoming mainstream, there's still a very lack of robust spatial content infrastructure. And so what TagSpace has built and continues to build is to provide this infrastructure that allows digital content to interact with real world locations. And so the vision is to enable a future where all of our digital lives, so think all of the content, your photos, your videos, your socials, and your news, are all spatially integrated with the real world. So we're moving beyond flat scrolling interfaces and instead putting all of that content right where it's natural all around us.
That's very interesting. So, as you mentioned, your team consists of AAA video game veteran and Web3 expert who've been building immersive experience since 1990. So, how has this background shaped the company direction and culture?
So the deep experience that we've had in immersive industries, comes from stems from the gaming industry, which has been around since, well, technically since the '60s, but this naturally leads to a focus in creating engaging and interactive spatial experiences. And then from an innovation perspective, our combined background fosters a culture of pushing boundaries in spatial AI and blockchain technology.
So sorry, just to move on. So TagSpace emphasize that is not VR, as you explained, but real world AI. So for an audience that is not familiar with spatial AI, how does TagSpace differ from traditional, I would say, VR, AR, and mixed reality platform?
Yeah, sure. And yeah, hopefully that was just a bit of a ghost in the machine, a ghost in the matrix before, but hopefully everybody caught the rest of that answer. Feel free to hit me up on X if you didn't know. But yeah, so what is the difference between real world AI and VR, AR, MR? So really, the single real outlying difference here is that it is real world based experiences, right? So it's that perfect blend between real world digital content and real world locations. So it's all about putting information, exploration, entertainment right in front of people's eyes based on where they are, what they're doing, and what they're interested in. And so, VR, for example, is all about, putting the shoebox on your head, fully immersing you in a world of computer graphics where you don't get to see the real world. And then there's, at the other end of the spectrum, there's augmented reality, or at least the classic augmented reality, behaves more like sort of overlays, where you can see the real world and you sort of get an overlaid view of content on top of that. Whereas real world AI is all about blending as seamlessly as possible the real world with the digital, but in a way that it gives you an enhanced view of that real world. And so, for practical applications, it's all, think walking tours, think about finding your way around a city, much more easily than trying to use a map, or at a sports game. Think about finding all of the action and being able to see it way beyond what your eyes can see. Right. So these are all the kind of experiences that we're enhancing using spatial AI.
Okay, I see. And can you walk us through the core component of your ecosystem, TagSpace app? So the agentic AI, the OmniTag protocol, and the Tag Studio creation tools, and how they work together.
Yeah, I could happily talk for 2 hours on this one, but I'll try to keep it short. We've actually got an enormous tech stack that we've built from the ground up. We're all a seriously deep technical company, but the main components, first off, starting with the TagSpace app, that's been live now for quite some time, quite a few years. We've got a lot of cool experiences, a lot of brands that are already in there, a lot of information, pure utility experiences, right the way down to things like the Care Bears that are in there if you just want to sort of have fun with some cute, lovable bears. But this is the user-facing application that allows anybody to interact with spatial content. And then what's coming soon is a live voice chat with your personal AI concierge, and you'll also be able to generate that content on demand that you want. Right now, to generate content, you use Tag Studio, which is our web-based creation tools, where you basically drag and drop any content. It could be images, videos, or select from 3D animations, and you literally drop them onto a map, and they're instantly live within the app wherever you drop them on the map. So there you go, lots of good rhyming there. And then we've got, excuse me, our OmniTag Spatial protocol, which we're working on right now. That's an open source protocol, which will make it really easy for any third-party content to connect into the platform, which is then visualized spatially. So you might be thinking, well, what is location-aware data? It actually turns out over 70% of the content that you consume on your mobile phones is location-aware, but we just don't even realize that because our phones are terrible generally at giving it to us. So we just sit there and scroll. But think about all of your photos, think about your social feed, think about the news, the weather. All of these have a very clear location aspect to them. They all take place at real-world places. And so our OmniTag spatial protocol will allow any of these feeds to be able to connect to the platform, and then we visualize it spatially using our spatial compute. And then we also have Taglytics, which currently we only offer to businesses, but this is our analytics platform that gives you deep insight into how digital content is being engaged with in the real world. We can even provide heat maps to show how people move across spaces completely anonymously, but engaging with digital content. And so this is actually really, really interesting because just by putting 3D content out in the real world, we've shown that by putting like a cool 3D animation in the middle of a completely open grassy field, we can actually send people to that location because there's cool virtual content that appears there. So really interesting, this whole sort of hybrid analytics, from digital content in the real world.
Okay. Let me see if I'm not wrong. So TagSpace highlights four pillars: interoperability, privacy, proof of ownership, and moderation as a reason for decentralization matter. So how does blockchain help you achieve these goals? And why do you think decentralization is essential for spatial content? Hello?
Sorry, can you hear me okay?
You hear me?
Yeah, all good. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah, do you
yeah,
want me
let's
to repeat the
no, no, that's
question? Okay.
no, that's fine. So four pillars: interoperability, privacy,
Yeah.
proof of ownership, and moderation. And then, why blockchain, I guess, is the question. So
Sure.
first off, let's unpack interoperability. So blockchain can facilitate a standardized open protocol, like we're doing for OmniTag, for spatial content. And that allows different platforms and creators to connect and share data without the need for central gatekeepers. So
Mhm.
interoperability, number one. Privacy, depending on where you're at in the world. Decentralization obviously can enable users to maintain greater control over their data, but also think about it. Because we are a spatial platform, it means that we're trusted with some very sensitive data, for example, your current location. And so, we want to know very precisely where you are relative to digital content that might be placed in the real world, but we don't want to have to know anything about you, right? And so we
Mhm.
don't want to, we don't want to know, for example, Johan was at this particular place at this particular time. All we should really need to care about is Johan is at this very precise, geo coordinate, and it's close to some content that he's going to be interested in because he's asked
Mhm.
for it. So, so privacy, but in a way that we can serve up things that you want to see right where they see them. So decentralization is perfect for that. Proof of ownership is another very hot topic. So we designed this from the very start, even before things like NFTs and blockchain were really mainstream. And so blockchain's immutable ledger makes it, excuse me, makes it a really clear and verifiable record of content ownership. So for creators, that empowers them with digital rights management and intellectual property protection. Now, not just for individual creators, this is really important to brands as well. Obviously, brands, have generated, billions and billions of dollars of IP, and they want to make sure that that IP is protected somehow. And so what's really cool about the blockchain is we can bring that IP management to the blockchain in a way that doesn't require, a whole army of lawyers in the room just to be able to work with that content. So this is really powerful.
Mm.
And then obviously for spatial content, given the nature of spatial content interacting with the real world, decentralization ensures that this layer of information isn't controlled by a single entity.
I see. Interesting. And in your roadmap, you mentioned a token-powered ecosystem with fractional revenue sharing. So, what is the economic model behind Tagai token, and how will it incentivize creators, brand, and user?
Yeah, this is another one where I could happily spend a couple of hours, but I'll give you the I'll give you the alpha on it. So the Tag AI token is our native utility token, and let me give you the very sort of brief flywheel that's pretty easy to understand, like in a heartbeat. So for one, the Tag AI token, it incentivizes creators by allowing them to earn token based on how much engagement their content is getting. So the more eyeballs their content gets, the more Tag AI token they earn. By spending Tag AI token, creators get to unlock a whole heap of different ways that will boost their content. Right? For example, they might spend token to get access to be able to use a brand. And by using branded content, that's going to be content that more consumers are familiar with and they love, and so that will get them more eyeballs, which will in turn earn them more tokens. That's the sort of very brief flywheel there. Um, then there's a whole lot of other features that are sort of baked into this. For example, incentivizing creators with fractional revenue sharing. Lots of applications, not just for individuals, but for brands as well. So let's take a brand because it's an easier one to describe, or at least in a short amount of time. Brands, they might have, like, if we're bringing, for example, like let's say it was a musical tour of David Bowie in New York. You could literally walk across New York and see all of the places that David Bowie visited when he was alive, either as David Bowie or Ziggy Stardust. And as he goes on, and as you go on your merry way, all of this content, users were paid to unlock it and enjoy that experience. But then on the back end, think about all of the different parties that might want to clip the ticket on the revenue that's generated. For example, the artist, if they were still alive, the digital rights, the IP rights holder, the promoters. So that there's a whole sort of chain of people or even businesses that want to participate or need to participate in that revenue sharing. The same goes for an individual creator. You can instantly start earning revenue based on the amount of content, based on the people that are engaging with your content. But let's say now, you've got your themed walking tour of a particular city that takes people past a restaurant that you think is particularly good. You could then tap that restaurant owner on the shoulder and say, guess what? I'm actually generating real world traffic to your restaurant. Why don't you chuck in a bit of money each month to help with advertising this experience? That's going to get more engagement to my tour, and that's going to get you more people coming to your restaurant. In return, you will also get a little piece of the action when it comes to revenue sharing. And the platform makes it really easy to enable those users. Enable that revenue sharing, with as many parties as you want. You literally just hit another button and it's good to go.
Okay, so TagSpace is tokenizing its equity via IXS Finance. For those new to real-world asset tokenization, could you explain what it means for company equities to be tokenized and why you choose IXS for this partnership?
Yeah, so equity tokenization was actually a bit of a new one to us, but because we love technology, because we love new ways to be able to engage with new partners, we looked into this and it made a lot of sense. So first off, equity tokenization, there's a few different ways you can do it, but in essence, it means that a pool of traditional shares of our company's equity can be represented as digital tokens on a blockchain. And then each token in turn represents a fractional ownership in the company. And this has got the benefit because it allows for greater liquidity and fractional ownership, which means it's accessible to a much wider range of investors. For example, in the past, if we have done raises, for some fairly big known investors and VCs, but now it means that instead of having to come up with and invest in very large ticket sizes, it means that anybody, just retail investors, can get access to this tokenized equity offering. And why we chose IXS was actually through one of our investment partnerships in IXS's ecosystem. And so we got made aware by IXS, and they specialize in real world asset tokenization and provide the necessary infrastructure both for compliance, liquidity, and investor access for these tokenized securities. And so this partnership essentially leverages IXS's expertise in security tokens.
Yeah, true. So IXS is known for offering access to private market investment opportunity via security token. How will TagSpace leverage the IXS platform for liquidity and investor access?
So because IXSwap provides that platform for secondary trading of security tokens, it provides an additional avenue for investors to buy and sell their tokenized equity in TagSpace. So so if you think traditional model, usually you have to wait for an exit event before you can get a liquidity event from a startup's token. Whereas because there's a secondary market available here, it means that investors can get access to that liquidity sooner.
Okay. Can you share a few use cases where TagSpace Spatial AI is already being deployed? Let's say, for example, music festival. You talked to me about music festival, tourism activation, or any brands.
Yeah, wow, lots and lots and lots of use cases. So I mean, we've actually been around for quite a few years now. We've been at market for more than 5 years, and we've been in existence, more than 8 years. And so in that meantime, we've been fairly blessed with being able to attract some fairly well-known customers that, both paying customers and then also partnered. And so we actually first went to market in Portugal, of all places, as part of Techstars with music festivals. And we attracted 3 music festival customers in our first 6 weeks of going to market. Because if you think about it, think about the traditional festival experience. The number one problem that festival goers have is trying to find their stuff, especially after a few beers, let's just say. So think about, where's my car, at the end of the music festival? Where's my friends right now? I
Mm.
went off and picked up some drinks. So where's my tent? I pitched my tent many hours ago. Where is it now? And so, we can solve all of these using spatial AI instantly. Instead of trying to use a map, you just look through the mixed reality spatial view on your phone, and instantly you get these graphical pointers that show you to the things that you need in real time. So music festivals, super good use case. And then we bring in that live information. For example, you can look through your phone and see right above each music stage who's playing right now and who's coming up next. Right, so heaps and heaps of utility there. Similarly, for tourism, we've activated tourism both for private tourism bodies and even government. So, for example, think interactive city tours that are themed. I gave you that example of David Bowie music tour, but
Mhm.
think also it could be a heritage tour of a city. It
Mm.
could be a gastronomy tour of Paris, where you see AR overlays of past events or recommendations for places that are interesting to you right now. And this has the major benefit from going around to a traditional in-person tour guide, because you do this on your own time and it's highly customized to you. And then think also brand activations. We've been used to activate brands in a fun way, such as scavenger hunts, interactive product placements, and pop-up experiences. And then, of course, location-based games. Think obviously Pokemon Go is the one that everybody has heard of, but
Mm.
you can make scavenger hunts on the platform in TagSpace super easily. Like literally, you could create a scavenger hunt that takes place across an entire city in minutes using our creation tools.
Mm. I'm curious, how do enterprise and consumer onboard? So, for example, what tools are available to brands and creators to build spatial experience, and how easy is it for example, a non-technical user to create content?
Yeah, so there's a bit of a sliding scale here. So the consumers on board, enterprises on board on the app just by literally downloading it. And the usual way that they discover the app is either through socials, because we've made it really easy so that just through a URL, you can click on it and it will install the app if it's not already installed. And then every URL that's associated with a spatial experience will take you straight into that experience in TagSpace. So the TagSpace app operates kind of like a spatial web browser. So we make it really easy for everybody to onboard into the app really quickly. We've made that amazingly straightforward. Nor that you can also do that through a QR code. For example, at music festivals or sports events, the organizers might put a QR code that activates their TagSpace spatial AI experience through that QR code. So as you get to the event, you scan it with your phone, and then boom, downloads the app and takes users right into that spatial experience from within there. For creating those experiences, up until very soon after we launched the Tag AI token, Tag Studio has only been available to businesses. So previously we were operating mostly as a B2B company. What we're
Okay.
doing shortly, though, is we're opening up Tag Studio to everybody so that anyone can be a creator, log into Tag Studio, and then instantly create the experiences like we talked about.
Okay. So your public roadmap list milestone, such as, for example, the 3D generative AI and tag place marketplace in Q3, and AI 3D selfie generator and OmniTag open source protocol in Q4. So which of these advancements are you most excited about, and why?
Oh, wow. Well, my team and I are really excited about all of our roadmap features because, well, that's why they ended up there. And to be clear, all of our roadmap features are completely market driven. And so obviously AI is a thing. I'm sure everybody's heard that that AI is being used for a few different use cases right now. What's really exciting for us though is 3D generative AI, which is still
Mhm.
fairly young, and it's something that we are helping to pioneer. So think about the use cases for this. As a kid, you could say, "Hey, TagSpace," or "Hey, Aria," that's going to be your sort of agentic AI assistant. Um, hey, Ara, make it rain frogs around me. I want to squish them. And then all of a sudden, our platform will create 3D frogs that will rain from the sky and start bouncing around you in the real world, right? Or think, you, you might want to say, hey, I want a personalized walking tour of this city guided by my sports idol. And all of a sudden, as long as that license has been generated and agreed upon, then boom, we can generate a 3D version of your favorite sports personality or music personality, and then follow them around the city as part of a guided tour. So this is super powerful, and this is something that we're working on.
Yeah.
We've got the tag. Sorry, go ahead, Johan.
No, no, no. I want to say that's amazing. Please continue. Yeah, very exciting.
Right on. And as an extension of that, we've also got our AI 3D selfie generator. And so we've actually already prototyped this where by spending a little bit of token or paying some real world fiat, you'll be able to just take a selfie and have that sometime later, it'll be within a few minutes, appear in front of you as your own sort of 3D selfie that you can then share with friends. So, for example, think about it. You could literally, within TagSpace, send a 3D animated version of you to a friend on the other side of their world that appears on their doorstep as a personalized greeting to them on their birthday. Right? We're really
Yes.
excited about that. Think about all the use cases around that. And then our TagPlace marketplace is creating, a vitally economic system, economic engine for the whole ecosystem. So this will be the hub where creators can monetize their spatial content and where users can discover and purchase unique experiences. So this is where we bring together brands, we bring together individual creators and consumers all into a space where they can potentially monetize their offerings and trade them.
Mm. I see. Exciting. Behind the current roadmap, what longer term innovation like AI spatial concierge, mixed reality glass, for example? So, which one do you see shaping tag space evolution?
Yeah, so I mean, we're all about powering the next incarnation of the internet, and I don't say that lightly. I know it's a very big statement, and it's meant to be. We have built what we intend to be the next incarnation of the spatial internet, and we've been doing this for years. And so our longer term innovations are going to continue to help support that. Right. So think about a world in the not too distant future when instead of consuming all of these content that has real world location associated with it, instead of scrolling through it on your phone, think about it all visualized around you and think about all of the sort of knock on technologies and innovation that needs to happen as a part of that. So the obvious use case, mixed reality glasses. TagSpace is not a hardware manufacturer. We will probably work with hardware vendors to have our own branded glasses in the not too distant future. But think about all of the big players right now that are working on this very actively. Think about Apple, Google, Samsung, Xiaomi. They've all announced these glasses. Think about Meta's partnership with Ray-Ban and Oakley. So
Mm.
all of the big technology vendors are working towards this solution right now, and that's why we're really just on this hopefully hockey-shaped curve where we're providing the software infrastructure for these hardware solutions. And the whole AI, the whole spatial AI and agentic AI around this is just going to continue to grow and grow. Because all of a sudden, once people are really getting used to engaging with content spatially around them, all of a sudden the AIs will need to work with that and help give you a really rich experience based on where you are. So heaps and heaps of new innovation that's going to happen in this space. Really exciting.
I see, but what mechanism, for example, will be in place to moderate spatial content and prevent misuse? Especially, I mean, as anyone can create location-based experience.
Yeah, this is a really hot topic, and we've I we've probably been discussing this as a team and with with experts in in regulation and legal for months and months and months. Fortunately, some of this has already been fairly well solved in any sort of user-generated content platform, current social platform. So a lot of this has been solved. But what's really interesting is when it comes to sort of spatial experiences in particular. But first off, to cover some of this that's already been fairly well solved. One is community-driven moderation. So a moderation system where token holders or a dedicated trusted community can report and vote on inappropriate content. And with clear guidelines and a clear appeal process. And then combine that with AI-assisted content filtering. That's already happening on a very mass scale, but essentially leveraging AI to automatically detect and flag content that violates community guidelines or legal standards. And so that goes back to your previous question around innovation, especially in in a spatial context. And I was talking about how AIs will need to become more spatially aware. This is a great example because content, when associated with location, can have its whole new meaning, and so we need to have moderation around that as well. Creator vetting and reputation system, so giving reputation scores to creators. We're already talking about once we first allow the first tier of any consumer to be able to become a creator on the platform. Once we start to roll that out in beta, we'll do that through having our sort of approved creator beta group. And so people will just sort of apply through a simple process. We'll approve them. They generate content, and then we will sort of review the content within our team first to make sure that it covers all of our standards, and then we allow them to go out, and then they will get some kind of star against their profile to show that they are an approved vendor. And then there's a whole heap of other self-moderation, features that we're built into the platform. For example, tag aging. So this is a sort of self-regulated content management system, which ensures that content will stay alive and be visible based on how much engagement and likes it gets. So simply put, content that people don't like or simply aren't engaging with will slowly just fade away and literally die. And so this in turn provides a very nice, elegant incentive for people to generate good content that people like.
Okay, and how does TagSpace compare with other AR and VR platform, and also emerging metaverse like, for example, Sandbox or Decentraland? What differentiates your approach from big player like Apple Vision Pro or Meta?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, we can clearly disassociate or differentiate ourselves from any of the VR platforms like Sandbox, where we are all about keeping people in the real world, right? So it's all about real world based experiences where we give users an enhanced view of that real world, right? So that sets us fairly clear as a differentiator compared to any of the VR platforms. And then when it comes to Apple's Vision Pro, Meta's offering, et cetera, we see those as complementary. These are predominantly solutions driven by hardware companies. I mean, obviously aside from Meta, but what we are doing is complementary because we're providing that sort of content ecosystem that's associated with real world places. For example, like with our OmniTag protocol, we're making it really easy for existing content, even including some from those platform players, to make it really easy for them to become spatial content quickly and easily. So we're mostly complementary with these rather than being competitors with them. That's a very clear differentiator there. In addition, our AI agentic kernel will literally boil the ocean of all of this content that's been connected to the platform to curate or create exactly what is relevant to you, the user. Right? So that we really sort of stand out there. So it's a real focus on utility, practicality, and then entertainment use cases. We bring them all together. So our promise to the end user is every single time when you fire up a TagSpace experience, no matter where you are in the world or what you're doing, you should find at least something that is entertaining, if not super relevant and informational based on what you're doing.
Yeah, the key is in the entertainment part. I think you're right on that. And I wanted to know what key metric will you track to measure TagSpace success for the next 2-3 years. I think the user growth is important, creator adoption, the time spent also on the platform, the token circulation, etc. So could you please explain more about that?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, a lot of the classic metrics that and KPIs that are associated with apps are always going to be relevant. So, especially around user growth. So, DAU, daily active users, monthly active users, engagement rates, user adoption, user attrition, et cetera, et cetera. These are all going to be common metrics. I think where it gets really interesting, and this is something that we're doing, reasonably uniquely, is around the spatial metrics. And again, that's where Taglytics, our analytics platform, comes into its own, because it's not just about engagement; it's also about engagement at location, right?
Mm,
What so the same piece of content, for example, think about content that tells you whether you can park your car at this particular space, right, in a city,
mm, mm, mm,
right,
mm.
an adaptive parking sign. So if you think about that use case, it's all about the location. If you had that same parking sign in the middle of like a park, or well, bad example, in the middle of like a beach, or like an amusement park or something, where it's not relevant, then it's not going to get any engagement. In fact, it's going to be completely out of place. Whereas if you put that at a place that's really confusing in a street in a busy city, all of a sudden that's got heaps of utility, right? And so the metrics associated with it are very much driven by its location. And then in addition to that, obviously we've got a whole heap of KPIs around the token ecosystem health, the Tag AI token,
Mm.
circulation, liquidity, staking, usage, et cetera, et cetera. But then also with our OmniTag protocol, we're going to have a lot of KPIs that will be tracking around the adoption of that. How many third parties are able to plug into the OmniTag protocol without having to do much work on their end? Are there any friction points? How many of these third parties are plugging in their data to the OmniTag protocol, but it's not being visualized correctly for whatever reason? So a lot of these will be tracking.
I see. For the last question, and I think this one is very important for any potential investor and partner, joining this AMA. What is the most compelling reason to participate in your upcoming equity token offering?
Yeah, so obviously very important question, and so many reasons, but here's the short list. For one, we're pioneers in spatial AI. So, this is the opportunity to invest in a leading company that's at the forefront of spatial AI, and, not to be too grandiose, but, the next incarnation of internet experiences. And again, I don't say that lightly. This is something that all of the big technology players in the world are thinking about top of mind. And so, we're either building / have built a chunk of that infrastructure already, and will continue to push it forward. So it's founding infrastructure for the next generation of internet experiences. We're a very experienced team. You heard some of my credentials at the start, and all of my team are seasoned AAA video game veterans, Web3 and AI experts. We've all got a proven track record in immersive technologies. We also had disruptive technology that we were some of the first to build. I mean, literally, we have 4 patents in the US already awarded, another 3 that are in the pipeline, and we've been doing this longer than most companies, even some of the biggest names that you've heard of. And so we've been thinking about this longer than most, and this is an opportunity to invest in a technology that promises to transform how we interact with digital content in the real world and move beyond traditional 2D screens. Another important point is we deliver. I know there's a
Mm.
lot of noise in this space. There's a lot of companies, listing tokens and startups doing this, that, and the
Yeah.
other. There's a lot of meme coins. There's a lot of noise, right?
Mm.
And where we really try to stand out is the fact that we deliver. We're here. We're real. We've got a strong and long history of delivering roadmap features, both to our audience, but also spatial experiences to some of the toughest customers and brands on the planet. And they only give you one chance, right? And we've got repeat customers in here. So, as we say in England, the proof is in the proverbial pudding there. We've got a strong ecosystem and roadmap, very clear vision and a robust ecosystem, around the app, the AI kernel, the OmniTag protocol, Tag Studio creation tools. All of these play nicely together. And we don't just sort of chuck out new features. There's a real vision, pun intended here, for a roadmap that gets us towards the experiences that are going to power that spatial internet. And then, last obviously but not least, traction and trust. We have current backers that include some very well-known investors such as Deutsche Telekom, Techstars, and Quake Capital. We've also delivered experiences all around the world, like I said, to some of the best-known brands like Warner, Live Nation, and Bertelsmann Group. So there you go. There's a short laundry list there, but lots of other reasons. And of course, check out our check out our website as well for additional information. Check out our X channel. You'll see lots and lots of more use cases, more reasons to work with us and partner with us.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for sharing your journey and giving us such a deep look into TagSpace vision, technology, and roadmap. That's really clear that spatial AI is not just a buzzword. It's shaping the future of how we interact with the digital world. And I think TagSpace is right at the forefront of that shift. For everyone tuning in today, if you would like to learn more about TagSpace or get involved in the upcoming equity token offerings through IXS, be sure to check out the resource we will share after this session. And yeah, on the behalf of the IXS team, thank you to our community for everything, and thanks again for joining us. We are excited to see what's next. Thank you so much. Anything else to add?
No, thanks everybody for giving up your time to jump in and listen. Really appreciate you all. And obviously, just reach out, ping me on X or wherever you want to reach me. I will be glad and happy to talk with you. Have a good one, everyone.
Thank you. See you next week, everyone. Bye. Thanks.